Welcome to Stars Podcast, your growth mindset mecca. We are all about self-leadership principles here at Stars Podcast. Our guests come from all over the world with very unique stories of how they hack their way into success. As you'll quickly find out, nothing happens overnight. And as always, enjoy the journey. Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to the show. Today we're going to be talking with Michael Sapienza. He is the CEO of the Colorectal Cancer Alliance. He's a chief executive officer there. Lost his mother to colorectal cancer in May of 2009. He turned his profound grief into action, inspiring and challenging the colorectal cancer community to do a little bit more. Over the last decade, Michael has become an expert and a trusted voice in the topics of colorectal cancer. And as we get into the podcast, not only do we talk about colorectal cancer and some of the preventative measures we can take, but we do get into Michael as a CEO and as a growth mindset junkie and some of his past history in the music world, as well as some of this experience that he brings to the table that he says shapes his leadership style. We also jump into my Goggins 4x4x48 challenge that I engaged in over the weekend. And if you have not yet checked out my Instagram, go over there to Ambitious Distractions and go ahead I would love for you guys to donate. We're only a couple $100 short on that. So again, that's Ambitious Distractions over on Instagram. And the 4x4x48, one of the challenges is 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. And you're supposed to raise money for a organization that you have near and dear to your heart. And for me, those of you who will find out and you listen to this podcast, it hits near and dear to my heart. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you don't worry about it. I just appreciate you listening. Thank you so much. And join me in welcoming Michael to the show. Hey guys, welcome back. This is Ron Jordan coming out of Rocinante Studios in Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania. Today we have a special guest coming onto the show, Michael Sapienza. He is from the Colorectal Cancer Alliance. He's the CEO over there, founding member, and we're going to go through the story about how that came to be, as well as how we connected. So, Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was reading through some of the information that you sent over to us about the early days of the Colorectal Cancer Alliance, and it wasn't always called Colorectal Cancer Alliance. And actually the reason why you created it was a reason why I got involved in it, which is the passing of my mother. So if you could kind of go through the origin story, and I don't want to dig too deep into your past, but if you're welcome to, or if you're open to sharing, I'd love to hear sort of that origin story, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. So by training, I was actually a musician. You can see the music behind me. These are actually pieces that I bought my mom in Vienna, Austria when I was there performing, and gave them to her. These are like the last original Bach prints of Fantasia and Bach Fugue and Bach Fantasia. And after she died, I had them, and obviously I hung them up on the wall. But in 2006 was when my mom was diagnosed. I was performing in the New World Symphony with Michael Tilson Thomas, who's also the conductor of the San Francisco Symphony, although he just got diagnosed with glioblastoma. It was very, very sad. Anyway, so make a long story short, my mom called me on a Saturday morning with my dad on the phone saying, Michael, we've hit a bump in the road. And I figured, first of all, why the heck are they both on the phone? Because both parents never called me. And they said they found a mass in my tumor, a tumor or a mass in my colon. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, where's your colon? Like I know what my intestines are, but what does that mean? And like where, we ended the call. It was very sad, obviously, because, it just, a lot of things were unknown. And I went immediately, even back then, 2006, to Google and called my parents back because I just knew they were sad. Fast forward, 2.5 years, and my mom died on Mother's Day in 2009. And I had taken a leave of absence from the orchestra. I had moved home because I was just like, because of all the emergencies, I was flying back and forth between Miami Beach and DC, and it was a lot. And my brother said, Michael, what would you do if you had $1 million? Well, I didn't have $1 million. Our family didn't have $1 million.
Right.
But I said I would start a colon cancer foundation because, at that point, colon cancer was the second leading cause of cancer-related deaths. And the largest organization was the then Colon Cancer Alliance. So I actually founded an organization called the Chris4Life Colon Cancer Foundation, and we merged with the Colon Cancer Alliance in 2016. So to make a long story short, like Chris4Life's early days were out of the basement of my parents' house in Virginia. We really didn't get an office until 2014. We grew, though, to be the second largest advocacy group for colon cancer in the country. And then I proposed the merger in 2014, 2015, and January 2016, we did it. And it's been a crazy ride. We are approaching a budget of $20 million this year, which when we merged, it was less than 5. So we've made huge progress, both on what we've been able to raise, but actually what we've been able to do with that money. So it's been a crazy ride, not an easy one, certainly, but yeah.
Yeah, of course. So whenever you go from your Chris4Life in your parents' basement, and then can you run me through how you even get to a point where you're like, hey, let's merge with the biggest one and make this a reality? What was it that they were going to bring to the table that you weren't already doing? Or was it more, I need to speed this up so we can help more people?
Yeah, it was basically, all of those things combined, but I recognized very early on that there was a huge need. You have like 1.4 million people in this country that are in any day today, if not more, living with the disease. And that's not like people like me and you who were potentially caregivers or had loved ones who had the disease. That's just tons of people. And I recognize there's got to be a way to raise more money to get people screened, to raise awareness. It's like, when's the last time, even in the last 20 years, there really hasn't been a celebrity that has come out to it? Yes, Chadwick Boseman, we all know, passed away from it, but he didn't talk about it when he was alive. No judgment on him, but he didn't. And so, Katie Couric did hers live on TV 20 something years ago. But yeah, for me, really, I think the biggest thing was just my passion, seeing my mom in so much pain for so long and just seeing the need. I was really lucky as a musician. I was always part of the orchestra administration, young arts program or young development program or young business and program. I always saw how the fundraising mechanisms worked, knew that was just so important to get us moving forward.
How does the fundraising portion work? If somebody wanted to create one, some sort of foundation that does work like you're doing, and we'll get into the work that you're doing, but how do you start?
Yeah. You surround yourself with people that know what they're doing.
Right? Yes.
For me, I was I was a musician. I had never been a CEO of a $20 million company before. Right. And so that's what I did. I surrounded myself with friends and family first that were just kind of close circle. And then as we raised more money, and even now, hiring the best talent to make sure that, we know what we're doing. And I would just say, I made tons of mistakes coming into it. And, one of the really frustrating things for me was that the colon cancer space in general is very fractured, meaning in breast cancer, you have Susan G. Komen, right? And then you have Breast Cancer Research Foundation and a couple others that are very large that have a huge impact. Leukemia and lymphoma, you have the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Well, colon cancer had 20 different groups. And we actually still have a lot of groups. We're by far the largest, but there's still a ton. And that fractured nature is for me, from the very beginning, I took a business approach to it.
And from a business approach, meaning that you just knew that you had to have certain pieces in place that were more centralized, and that way you could all filter into this main goal of helping patients and families. And is that from a business point of view? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So I remember at the very, very beginning and putting together a strategic plan, I had a friend who worked at IBM as a business consultant. And I was like, okay, well, I can talk all day long about what I want to do for patients in terms of screening, care, cure, but I had no idea how to put that into a plan. And literally my friend Fong, he sat there day after day for like weeks and listened to me. And we put this entire thing into a strategic plan, like a even more thorough plan than we do even now.
Right.
It was really quite insane. And that's what I mean from a business perspective. It's like, okay, what's your mission? What's your vision? What's your ultimate goal, right? How many people are you trying to serve? What are the things that you're trying to do while you serve those people? And what is the makeup of the governance? So like board, young advisory board, business advisory board, medical scientific advisory board. And then from there, it's like, okay, well, like any business, how do you make money? Because I think that's one thing, especially from on the not-for-profit side, that a lot of people say, okay, well, I'm so excited, I'm jazzed about this idea, and I can be a passionate. Well, you can only do so much if you don't have money. And so that was really the driver for me, was like the fundraising. So we started out with just event fundraising, which is expensive, but it builds a client base, So let's say if you're selling a regular product, you got to have, first of all, there has to be need. And I already talked about the need. There's 1.5 million Americans living with the disease, right? Okay, if you're getting ready to sell cell phones, you got to have like an actual reason why people want it. And you have to have a need. And you have to build a community that wants that product or needs those services. And so for us, it was like, we started out with just these events that we would do. We make them fun. Like we did one like live concert at this like huge yoga studio in DC with a bunch of artists, et cetera. And then we moved into, actual individual fundraising, like, large donors, board members, et cetera. Then we started a 5K series. So we did the Scope It Out 5K, which actually still happens today. And we only do it in one city. We've changed it to the Walk to End Colon Cancer in other cities, but DC still has it. And so now we have multiple revenue sources. So we have industry funding. When I say industry, it means like, the Genentechs or the Pfizers of the world giving back because they have treatments available for patients. We have non-industry funders. So somebody like Cottonelle or somebody like Walgreens who really wants to give back. And then we have individual funders that range from somebody that gives us 50 cents to, $1 million+ or, even double million, 8-figure gifts. We have the peer-to-peer, which I said, we have bashes, which is our galas. We have, all sorts of things. We even have now, people can donate crypto. We have folks at the end of last year that donated NFTs to us. And we're starting to enter the whole foray of, how can we use the NFT world to even like have people from home, patients, survivors, caregivers, do that as well. So we've been really, really lucky. And I just, from a business perspective, I have always pushed the fundraising because it's sales, right? It's like, you don't got sales, you don't got mission impact, right? And if,
right.
For us, like a nonprofit, a for-profit company, is like you have sales, you have income, and you have money. For us, it's if you got sales and you got money, you have mission impact, and you can save lives, et cetera.
So whenever you talk about mission impact, because you keep saying screen, care, cure, that's obviously those are things that you're pointing to from your mindset of the business itself and as an organization. What are some of the mission, or not some of the missions, but like some of these, I guess, activities that you do? Are you specifically focused on those that are getting screened, have been screened, in the process of it, or all the above? Like, what is your product mix, we'll say?
Yeah. So it's a really good question. Like starting when we first started the organization, it was like, okay, you've got to have a 3-legged stool, because if you got all these patients that feel alone and have no group to go to, no people to talk to, and they need psychosocial support, they need financial support, they need like, okay, what are my biomarkers? What was my surgery? Like all these things. They didn't want to feel alone. So we started there. And it's like, how many people can we actually help day to day with education? For me, it was like, I remember my mom got on a drug called Erbitux, and it doesn't really matter what the name of the drug was, But 2 days later, she had this rash like all over her face, her neck. And we were supposed to be going to visit family in Pittsburgh. And she's like, I can't go. I need to go to the hospital. She tried to call the nurse navigators. No one was there, et cetera. And that's what we're here for, right? It's like, if people need that kind of information, you're not going to die. You actually just need to get on an online community, and someone in an online community can tell you, hey, you need this type of cream that actually can help relieve those symptoms. So, that's where we were founded, the care piece. And then the screen piece and the cure piece are obviously came as we continue to work. So if you think about screen, we're actually about to launch, I can't tell you who the celebrity is because this is obviously, external facing, but we're about to launch with an A-list celebrity. I can't tell you. I want to tell you so bad. I really do, but I'll get in so much trouble.
Don't tell me. Don't tell me.
I won't. I'll get in so much trouble. So anyway, the whole idea behind this like brand is like, okay, put colon cancer on the map. Like, yes. I hate to say it, make it famous, because we don't want to make any disease famous, but breast cancer became famous, right? Mm-hmm. Like it did. Angelina Jolie was like, she really helped Susan G. Komen like put it on the map. And when that happens, like groups like American Airlines and those that have deep pockets start giving back, because there's this huge community and swell of people. So this brand, I'll tell you the name of the brand. I can tell you that it's called Lead From Behind. And it's going to be awesome. Like we'll hopefully launch it in the next couple of weeks. And it will then, after the first celebrity, we're looking at a health equity lens of like, who can we go to really raise awareness in other communities besides just general awareness. And then from there, we are actually doing tons of work on the ground. So we have teams in multiple cities across the country that are like doing deep dive around screening. So during COVID, we said, well, crap, people are not going to go get their colonoscopies. They're not going to go get their Cologuard test or their FIT test. So we've got to do something about it. So we actually created like a PSA. We created a bunch of like, ads, marketing ads, Facebook, social, blah, 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 and drove people to what we now call quiz.getscreened.org. And it really provided a recommendation for them on what they should do. And we now do that year round in multiple different cities, et cetera. Plus we have live navigators on the phone to help them get through that. And then the last thing I would just say about screen is like the health equity piece. So, Hispanic Americans, people of color, African Americans have a much higher rate. And it's very interesting to me, because if you look at actually the number of people being screened, African Americans versus white or Caucasian Americans, it's not that big of a difference, but the actual incidence rates are 20% higher in African Americans, mortality rate 35% higher. So we're doing a lot of research, a lot of studies, like actually on the ground with patients. We were really lucky to get about $2.3 million worth of free tests donated from Cologuard, Exact Sciences, Let's Get Checked, Black Health, and Cottonelle to actually get underserved individuals screened. So it's like, we've got to figure out, our goal over here with that screen is to save 100,000 lives in 10 years. And I think we can do it. It's like, we've got to get people to, my mom, let me just tell that story real quick. My mom never got screened, and she would be alive today if she had, period. Right. And it's like not that complicated, but people are busy. People don't want to have something stuck where the sun don't shine.
I know. Well, here's the thing. I went and got mine done, and it was all because of our connection here. And I knew that I was high risk, and I knew that my doctor has been telling me for 2 years now to go get screened, because whenever you have a family member pass, you're supposed to go from 10 years before their age when they passed is like your cutoff date. So if they passed at 55, you should go at 45 at the very least, even though that age 50 is sort of when you're supposed to start. Anyhow, I'm super young compared to that. And I went and got checked, and the prep work wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. I had some pina colada jello and all that stuff, just kind of like doing all the things that you're supposed to do, avoiding the purples and the blues. and the things like that. So like I went through it, and I get to the hospital, go in, prep work, no big deal, get into the room. I count back from 10. I get to like 9. I'm out. I wake up in the recovery room. They ended up finding 2 polyps inside, and no issue whatsoever. They took them out. They did the biopsy on them, and they both came back as benign. But who knows if you just left those in there, what they turn into. I don't even know if that's like something that's typical that they find, or if it's not. But I was super happy that I went and got it done, and I got a clean bill of health now. And as I progress down this road, I'm very thankful that I got involved with the Colorectal Cancer Alliance, because I knew that it was something that I have a family history of, and it was very important for me to get it done. But just like you said, I'm busy, and that's the last thing I want to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, now that I've gone through it as a young man, it's not bad.
Yeah.
And that's what I keep telling people is like, it's just not bad. And if caught early, it's 100% preventable. And that's the part that I think that what you're doing from an education standpoint is massive.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm surprised you made it 9 seconds on propofol. That's I'm still stuck on that. I like got to 3 seconds and I'm like, I'm out.
No. I'm saying 10, 9, out.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, yeah.
I don't even remember. I don't even think I remember counting back, if I'm being 100% honest.
Yeah.
He like started asking me a question or two, and then I just remember it kind of being done.
There's a reason why Michael Jackson loved that drug so much. No offense to Michael Jackson, but yeah. And then now, the thing is now too, that they have at-home screening tests, which have taken off. So you've probably seen the commercials for Cologuard, the dancing box. Now those tests are for people that don't have family history. So you and I would have to get colonoscopies, but folks that don't, like, they can do it in the comfort of their own home, whether it's a Cologuard test or a FIT test. And they're all covered by insurance. And
so I don't know Cologuard. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, it's they call it stool DNA. So it actually looks for DNA that's shedding off of polyps, advanced polyps, or tumors, right? And basically, they send you a box. The box has this little thing you put on the toilet. You go to the bathroom just a little. You or you put something in it. You cover it. They literally give you another box to send it back in with the UPS label, and then they get you the test result. I don't know how quick. It's quick. And then obviously, if it's positive, you have to have a colonoscopy, but it's a lot less invasive. It's a lot easier. No prep. You can do it at home, right? Now, granted, the thing about a colonoscopy is that if you have a family history, you have to do a colonoscopy, because you really will be a polyp, quote unquote, polyp producer. I kind of compare it to skin cancer. If you got moles turn into skin cancer if you don't get them checked over a lifetime, right? And it's the same with polyps. Not all of them will, but some of them will turn into cancer. The great thing about colonoscopy, you can cut it out right then and there. But for people that don't have family history, there's both that Cologuard and FIT tests that you can do, and they are good tests and can help save your life as well.
That's amazing. I'm really impressed by all of that and everything that you have going on. I'd like to switch gears though, if we could, because I want to talk about, because inside of Stars podcast, it's all about self-leadership principles and being able to lead yourself and do all of these big goals that you're a part of. So I'd like to talk to Michael as a CEO and understand your daily habits to keep your mind straight so you can accomplish all of these goals. Because as a CEO, you have to wear a lot of hats. You have to be doing a lot of different things simultaneously. And I'd love to understand that from just for our listeners who are just the growth mindset junkies, and that's why they're here. I'd like to understand, maybe, do you have a morning or evening routine that you go through to start and finish your day?
Yeah. It's so funny thinking about this. This has always been hard for me because, it's like you evolve as a human being. And I remember like how organized or disciplined I was as a musician, like insanely disciplined. but I had a ton of fun too. I mean, like living in Miami Beach for 3 years while I was performing the New World Symphony, you can't imagine I was just stuck in a practice room the entire time.
Yeah.
But I still did it, right? Like, and actually the first thing I would just say is live. Like experiences are, for me, what has informed my leadership. So whether that's performing in an orchestra with 100 different people where you are forced and you want to work with most of them to create beautiful music, right? And it's sometimes you have to be the leader. Sometimes you have to mix in and be one of many. Sometimes you have to follow. Sometimes you have to just shut up and not do anything. And like you're taught in my world, you were taught as like, you got to think outside the box because you can't play or perform something the same time every time, or they're going to not, no one's going to be standing up and listen to you or paying to listen to you, period. Right. And so I took those, and my mom would always say, Michael, make them stand up and listen, you know, before I would go on stage. And, you know, I think now it's very similar, except for I've learned a ton about leadership along the way. Like and I'll answer your morning and evening question in a second, but I mean, I have a professional coach. I have a personal coach. I have found it very, very helpful because look, a person that needs to be the CEO of $1 million organization is not the same as a $5 million organization or a $10 million organization or a $20 million organization or a staff of 60 compared to 10, right? And so you've got a lot to learn. Like I mean, I'm a great leader. I'm a visionary. I inspire people, but the ins and outs of business and helping people kind of lead is not a straight path. It is, you know, all over the place. And I feel like I've been really lucky just to, like I said before, be able to surround myself with people. But just to tell you how I kind of really make sure that I'm centered, because not only do I have a busy job and have to travel a lot, starting again after obviously COVID, but there's the whole element of what we do. We help people in their saddest times of their life. And a lot of them die, a lot of them. And we get to know them, whether you're the CEO or you're on the patient family support team. And for me, it's like PTSD, right?
Yep.
And it's that part is the hardest part of my job, on top of being the CEO and a leader, not only in our organization, but across the cancer continuum, right? So my mental health is so incredibly important. And I will tell you the one thing for me that is most important for mental health, well, there's two things: exercise, I run, 2, sleep. Like those are the two things for me that if I don't do those, I totally am off just all the time. Like I cannot be a good leader without sleep. And then the same with exercise. It's like I have so much energy that if I don't, like I just in a way a little bit manic. So yeah, my morning routine is normally wake up, I run. And if I don't, it's still my time. It is no one else's time. And I also really have made a concerted effort. We do this thing called stop, start, continue. I don't know if you've ever heard that in business terms, but it's a really awesome personal development thing. So we did it at the beginning of the year, right after we're doing performance evaluations. It's like, okay, what am I going to stop doing this year that I was doing? What am I going to start doing? And what am I going to continue doing? And the stop for me was back-to-back meetings. That was one of them, right? It was like, I cannot do this anymore because I can't prepare and be my best self if I'm in constant meetings. It just can't happen. And then it also gives me more time to like actually think about what is right. Right. So that's one. The other one for me was to get out of anything HR related, because it's such a time suck. It's just, you know, and yeah. I've done pretty good on both of those things. I see myself slipping, right? And you have to like come out. And then, you know, some of the other things that I think are really, really important is, again, finding that balance between living your life as a person and living your life as the CEO of whatever organization you're doing.
And that's the part to me that I think what you just said right there was the back-to-back meetings and then living too. And you also said earlier, it was, I think, yeah, experience forms leadership. It's like you have to sort of not be in your business all the time in order to gather these experiences from other areas to now implement into your business in a better way. Because like you started your business because you had all these cool ideas, and then you get into it and you execute, but then like you become stagnant if you don't stop and go reach again and start, travel or talk to other people outside of your organization. So I love that part of it. And I like the start, stop, continue, because I actually just talked to my team 2 weeks ago about this, because we've been like just super busy and in the weeds in our business. And I'm like, guys, we need to take a step back and get onto like our Fig Jam board and like reevaluate who we are. Like, what are our verticals? What are we trying to do? Like, you have very specific goals. You have save 100,000 lives in 10 years. Like, that's a very specific goal that now you can all point to and rally around. And I think that that's something, whenever you do the start or the stop, start, continue, are times where you can evaluate those and give them the time that they need at that point.
Yeah. One other thing I was just going to say along those lines is we've been really lucky. Our board chair, or new board chair, was the head of strategy. He was a principal at a hedge fund in New York City. And he basically did strategic planning for all of their suite of $90 billion or $200, I don't even know, $billion worth of organizations. And so he actually did what we call a commitment plan with us. So every 18 to 24 months, we do a commitment plan. So it's not the same as a strategic plan. Strategic plan are a lot longer, right? It's like that, what I was saying, our vision is to end colorectal cancer in our lifetime. Our 3 goals are save 100,000 lives from screening. We want to reach 750,000 patients and fund $30 million worth of research. Those are our like high level goals, but that's not what it's easy to say those things. Anybody can say, oh, I want to end colon cancer, or I want to end world hunger, or I want to end homelessness. But really, how are you going to do it? And so that's the next step down. And for us, it's a commitment plan. And a commitment plan is basically saying it has to be SMART goals. It has to be measurable, right? And it's basically like, we are going to do X by doing Y, period. And then you have below that, all right, what are your main verticals? We call them pillars, right? And then what are your supporting pillars? Like the cross-functional teams, like marketing, communications, IT and data intelligence. For us, it's community engagement, finance and accounting, like all of those things feed up. And what we do then is we actually, every single pillar makes, below that large commitment makes their own commitment. And then we put literally every single thing that we're doing down on a piece of paper. It's multiple spreadsheets long. And then we sit in it for a whole day and we say, no, we're not doing that anymore because we don't have the money to do it. Or we are going to do that. We're going to supercharge it with this or that. And it really helps you prioritize and focus. It's been like the best thing we've done the last couple of years, to be able to like really allow the organization to have the room for opportunity, but also to concentrate on the thing that you want to be the most important.
Yeah. And that's a living document that can outlast you as well, which is the really neat part about those exercises. I call them exercises. I mean, they're actionable plans, but it outlives those people that are there, and it continues your vision, even if you're not there. And that's why I love doing those types of plans, because you're able to put everything that you're actually doing. So if somebody comes along and let's say like they wanted to acquire you, let's just say for business purposes, like, what are you doing? And if you're like, you just sit there in a meeting and you start rambling off, it's like, okay, well, what does that even mean? You have these living documents that you can pull from. And I think that's the part to me, from just as I'm a young entrepreneur trying to figure things out and how to get teams pointed in the right direction. I know these small, measurable, actionable like tasks are always in the mix, but putting it on, like I was talking about that Fig Jam board, you're using a spreadsheet, whatever tool you want to use to put down these ideas, I think is absolutely mandatory, because as soon as we implemented that, it changed everything. It absolutely changed everything, because now you can visually see big down to your strategic plan. So you have like your overall arching, then you have the strategic, and then you have these commitment plans, and then you're like getting granular on it. So I appreciate you sharing that tool.
Yeah, one of the things I was going to say that I think has made my leadership successful goes back to my music career. I took 110 auditions. Auditions is like an interview, right? And I won one. So I failed 109 times to win once. And what did that teach me? It was, I reeled pretty much every time I lost, of course, but it taught me to fail, and it taught me to fail quickly, turn around. It could have been the day. Somebody could have sneezed when I did something that, you know what I mean? And so for us now at the Alliance, and just my mantra in general, is we got to fail, and we got to fail fast. And we have to create an infrastructure that allows you to do that, right? And that, I think, is the hardest part. Whether you have a separate business unit that literally has new business or new ideas, or from the very beginning, you're an entrepreneur organization and all you do is try new things and fail. We have to do both now, right? Because we now have products, right, that are successful, that help thousands and thousands of people. But how do we do the new stuff while still keeping, like, our main Coca-Cola brand going at gangbusters? So we do it all the time, and we fail all the time. And then every once in a while, we get one that sticks and that is super successful, whether that's, screening or carrying or curing, et cetera.
That's the biggest part too, isn't it? Is being able to foster an environment where people can take risks and feel confident in their risk taking. It may not have come out the exact way you wanted, or it might not come out at all the way you wanted. However, at least you tried, and you can all learn from it as a collective.
Yeah. And it's like, I find most people, they're afraid, because then they're like, well, am I going to get my bonus? Am I going to meet my goals? Am I going to, do this? And I said, well, if you don't try, you're not going to, the number one reason why people don't give money to charities, they're not asked.
How about that?
Crazy. And think about that from a sales perspective, right? Just in for-profit, number one reason why people don't buy anything, because they don't know about it, right? Awareness equals money, and money equals awareness. It's like, in a capital society, that's just the way it works.
I agree. Well, here's the thing. It absolutely changed my life as a sales and marketing person. I know that those are two separate things, but I do both. But I'm in sales on the day to day, and I started asking, like, what are next steps? Can I get you a quote? I'm asking instead of them telling me. And it has absolutely revolutionized the way that people do business with me on a daily basis. I will, instead of giving them or asking them what they want, I will give them options.
Yeah, it's the assumptive sale, right? That's what it is. My mom. So I don't know if I told you this. My mom was an interior designer by training. Well, she was, a musician by training, then became a very successful interior designer. And after she died, I took over her business, not the interior design part, but the business part. And, it's like the two things I remember from like all the training I did around this time was, one, you're only as good as your next month's sale, which is so true, right? Right. Two is you have to be the assumptive sale. Like, that's just the way that like human psychology works. And then I love this other thing, which is, how's that working for you? So like, if someone comes to me, especially in our development department or even our programs department, and says, like, I'm just frustrated because this isn't happening, blah, 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 but I'm, still doing this same thing. And I'm like, well, how's that working for you? It's like, and I'm sure I do it all the time too. Like, just, you get into your human repetitive behavior and you just realize, okay, it's not working. But definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. So
yes, sir.
Yeah,
you got to do things differently if it's not coming out the way you want it. Like when I make banana bread and I forget to put sugar in it and it tastes like crap, it's like, you got to put sugar in next time. So I hear that.
At least you're making banana bread.
Yeah, I try and do something with those old bananas. My
I
family
hear
is like inevitable. Like as soon as they turn as soon as they turn ripe, in my opinion, my family won't eat them. They only eat green bananas. They're a bunch of weirdos.
that is weird.
It's
Yeah.
so strange. Um, so we're coming up on sort of the ending here. I wanted to understand a little bit more, like not a little bit more. What are some things that our listeners can do today to get more educated and to help you out in your vision for the Colorectal Cancer Alliance?
Yeah. Well, first I would just say is save your life. So get screened, like period. Like don't wait. I know it's, if you're, you can go to our website, quiz.getscreened.org, to see which tests you should have. If you have a family history or you're at high risk, you have to have a colonoscopy, but otherwise, you can get a fit test anywhere. You can go on Amazon and get a fit test. Cologuard, you have to get a doctor's prescription, but it's easy. Just go to your primary care physician and get one. And you can do those in your comfort of your own home. And look, after my mom died at 59. She was diagnosed at 56. And I told you I took over her business and I opened one of the drawers on the right-hand side. And there was 2 prescriptions for a colonoscopy, and there was actually 3 fit tests. Not one of them had been fulfilled. If she had done those, she'd be alive today, period. Like there's no other choice. And I also tell people this: if you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for like your husband, your wife, your partner, your kids, whoever it is. Like it is, an easy thing. Second, I would say is talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to others about it, right? People are talking about breast cancer all the time. We have this huge community now, right, of it. And it's just kind of the same with HIV AIDS in the gay community. Everybody was talking about it, right? You have heart disease now, you have diabetes. Colon cancer is one of those things. It's like for lung cancer, no smoking, right? For colon cancer, it's low diet, high in fiber, and low in red and processed meats, exercise, limit your alcohol consumption, etc. And then the third is help us raise money. It's the second leading cause of cancer-related deaths, but our organization is still between 15 and $20 million, which is incredible growth that we've had, but we need to be 100, 200, 500 million, right? To be able to have the same impact. I mean, when my mom died, it was the second leading cause of cancer-related deaths. It is today. You can take part in one of our walks. You can do your own thing. Thank you for the 4x4x4x48. Did I do that right?
4x4x48.
4x4x48. That's right. I thought it was only 2 words. Makes more sense. We have tons of opportunities. Even if it's just sharing on social media, like for example, we were on the Today Show yesterday, turned the Plaza blue. We had
I saw that.
We had a spot around Black Health and our partnership with them. We do all sorts of tons of stuff just to raise general awareness for family and friends. And that's, that is just invaluable, even if it's not giving money. So yeah, those are the 3 ways I would think.
Whenever you're doing interviews with some of the people that you're involved with, why did they say that they haven't gone to get screened?
Fear, time, money. Basically, those are the top 3. So fear of they may find something, fear of the procedure, fear of the prep. So it's insane what you would hear from people. Like there's some people in certain communities that think by having something stuck where the sun don't shine turns you gay. Mm-hmm. There are people that just don't have the option or luxury to do a prep, take off from noon until the nighttime, and then the next day for the procedure. They just can't do it. That's like what, an 1/8 of their revenue for the month or for the week. And if they have kids or they're single or whatever, right? Or do they have someone to take them there? So there are a lot of barriers for people RE colonoscopy, right? Again, it is the one that prevents it. It takes out that polyp while you're doing it. And that's the thing. Those polyps are what turn into the cancer. So yeah, I mean, it's fear, money, because they have to take off of work and et cetera, and time. Like I see the two most unscreened groups in our country are people that don't have access. So they may work hourly jobs, don't have the time, don't have access to great healthcare, et cetera. And then the other is people ages 45 to 59 who still have kids at home, may have kids in college. They're in the prime of their career. One of my mom's oncologist, Dr. John Marshall, once said, if I see another old or middle-aged white male lawyer who is successful as hell, excuse my French, in my office with stage 4 colon cancer, I'm going to scream, because they have all the access in the world and all they had to do was do one thing and they didn't. Yeah, it's really unfortunate. My mom is an example of that. She cared about everybody else but herself, right? Like, I had an adopted younger brother and sister who are insanely mentally ill. And I won't go into that a ton, but it's like, it also played into who I am today and growing up with them and seeing what they had to do and having the empathy that I do. But I think it also attributed that stress from my mom, probably attributed to her getting the cancer in the first place. So anyway.
That is a whole other show, Michael.
Right. I'm sorry.
No, absolutely. I appreciate
drop that bomb.
But I'll tell you this, coming just briefly meeting you now and understanding where you're coming from the music background, and now just understanding a little bit more onto why you have so much empathy, not so much like, I understand that your mom passing obviously created a drive for you to do something like this. But however, like that drive, we all have family members who have passed, and we don't get the drive to create an organization like you've created. And I really do think that it comes from that. It has to come from a place of empathy and being able to understand how deeply hurt you have become, and by product, your family, and you wanting to end that for the rest of the population. And now that I know that you can do something without having to leave your home, like with a Cologuard or a fit test, those are things that I will definitely be pushing onto our community as well. Because you don't have to take off work. You don't have to take time away from your family. It can fit into and I say this all the time, you got to meet people where they're at in order to make the biggest difference. Yeah. And I think that's a good way to meet people where they're at, is in their homes with Cologuard and fit test. So thank you for sharing those tools with me.
Yeah, of course. I would just also say, from the time that I was a kid, I wanted to help people. I didn't understand, it's like, I grew up with my younger brother and sister, like just not a good situation. And so I would like pray for them, and I would, just literally say, oh, when I get older, I'm going to become a doctor and I'm going to help people. And I would just tell like your listeners is, go with your gut, like, and don't be afraid. You're going to fail. You're going to do things wrong. You're going to get out ahead of your skis. You're going to lose money at some point. You're then going to make money at some point. It just, I don't want to say I have no fear, because I do have fear. That is like something that also drives me, right? And the fact that I have empathy in what I do right now is the best thing and the worst thing.
Sure.
It is, I mentioned this earlier, but it is super taxing on my mental health, right? It is really hard seeing family members, and, I've become super close, like almost best friends with patients. And I've had to learn, like, you got to build walls to be able to do your job effectively, certainly.
Yeah. Being able to compartmentalize is one thing, but then to deal with that with your trusted professionals is very much a consideration that you have to go through. And I know that you said that you do have 2 coaches that you work with, and being a CEO and dealing with more or less like a PTSD situation every time somebody passes, and being able to talk through that, I think is one tool to use for sure. Inside of this, whenever we're talking about self-leadership, we always talk about mental health and making sure you're getting the right type of outlets, whether that's exercise or whatever the case may be, with therapy, and then obviously getting enough sleep to process everything that goes on in a given day, because there's only so much we can download. There's only so much that we can process through. And if you give yourself enough time in the evenings through sleep, I think that's a really underutilized and massive tool that we can use inside of our toolbox.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for jumping on with me today. I can't wait to our Twitter Spaces so you can meet our listeners IRL inside of the Twitter Spaces show. And anybody who has questions, make sure you come, do the homework, listen to this podcast, and come with questions. Can't wait to hear from you guys all. And as always, enjoy the journey. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sticking here until the very, very end. If you wouldn't mind just leaving a comment or subscribing or liking the podcast or wherever you downloaded this, maybe it was from YouTube, I would love for that. You take an extra couple seconds to give us some more love, even though you have listened here to the very, very end. We appreciate that so much. Could you also go over to thestarspodcast.com if you found any of this really interesting and you wanted to dive in a little bit further? Or go to our Discord, which is Rocinante Studios NFT. Enjoy the journey.
And be sure to check out our Twitter Spaces Tuesday live crew at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. Free NFTs and PO apps.